From the high desert in the middle of the night with a full moon hanging right over all of us, this is Coast to Coast AM. Don't touch that dial.
Out on the street, I was talking to a
Of all the UFO cases in the world, in the history of the world, really, I think perhaps the Meier case is the most famous, maybe one of the most contested, one of the most controversial, no question about it, in the world. Michael Horn, welcome to the program.
Thank you, Art. A pleasure to be here.
Hey, Michael, with a background like yours, which is kind of in, it's in the media for sure, but I mean, songwriter, book publishing, regenerative sit and get fit movements, that kind of thing. How do you get from there to Billy Meier?
I think I got from Billy Meier to some of those places. Well, what happened was in 1979, I had been living in L.A. for about 9 years. At that point, I went into a bookstore called the Bodhi Tree, and I saw the first coffee table-size picture book, if you will. It also had text, but mainly the beautiful pictures of the UFOs. And ever since I was a kid, I had dreams of lights in the sky and fascination with spaceships and that type of thing, like probably many other people. So when I saw the book, it resonated. It looked like it was real. Of course, I don't base my current position on how I felt simply looking at the pictures, but they were the most astounding photographs I'd ever seen of so-called UFOs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the Billy Meier photographs, for those who have not seen them, are the most detailed, close-up, in many cases totally clear, not blurry shots of UFOs, alleged UFOs, I guess I ought to say,
Sure.
In the world. As simple as that. They're very, very clear photographs. So that's it, www.theyfly.com. Now, let's go back, and if you would, just for me, for everybody, Michael, tell us the story of Billy Meier. Who is Billy Meier? How did all this happen? When? Usual what, where, when?
Sure, I'll try and give you the kind of condensed overview. Billy Meier is a Swiss man who claims that his voluntary and face-to-face contacts with extraterrestrial humans started when he was 5 years old. He and his father had allegedly seen a silver-type object fly overhead. This was in about 1942 or so. He asked his father what it was. His dad says, I don't know, but I think it may be a weapon that Hitler's developing, et cetera, et cetera.
They were farmers, weren't they?
They were always living in a very rural area, a small village, and to this day, Meier lives in a small, very small rural environment in what's called the Schmidt-Route or Hinterschmidt-Route in Switzerland, outside of Zurich by perhaps 40 miles or more. And he then one day, having all of this great rural environment in which to grow up, he spent a lot of time in fields and forests, and one day he was outside in the forest, and he felt he said it was like a calling, like somebody calling to him. He heard it inside of his head, and so he followed it, and there was a pear-shaped craft with an elderly-looking man in what he said looked like a deep-sea diver's suit standing there. And as he tells it, he said he felt no fear. He felt that this was a kind person. He felt safe, and he went and walked up to the man, and that began these contacts where he was taken on board this craft with this man. Sometimes...
Okay, you say this man.
Whose name was Sfath. That may not help matters, but he was called Sfath. I believe it was spelled S-F-A-T-H. That's how it's kind of written and pronounced in the...
All right, but a man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, not a little gray guy, a fully human-looking human being. It would pass for an elderly-looking European man.
Okay, who are these people?
Well, what we're told are that they are people who we now are told are called Plejaren, spelled Plejaren.
Not Pleiadians.
For the longest time, that's how we had come to know of these so-called extraterrestrials.
When did you get that clarification?
I believe Billy was in 1995 at the point that they were about to officially depart and close up the bases that they had on the planet. They told him that he could now reveal this discrepancy and why it was put in place.
Okay, let's hear the real name again, please.
Plejaren.
Plejaren.
Yeah, so the J is a Y or an I kind of a sound. Plejaren. The Pleiades would be also spelled with a J. And what they said was, yes, we come from a system in the direction of the Pleiades in an altered time-space configuration because the stars that you see in the skies, the Pleiades, cannot support life. These are young blue suns, etc., and anybody that claims on any level that they're in touch with so-called Pleiadians is hoaxing. So what they claimed that they did here was this. They claimed that they put this in motion using this term Pleiadians so that for those who would come after Billy, supposedly, and claim to be having contacts with Pleiadians and channeling Pleiadians and all of the rest of the stuff, that they would be self-identifying as hoaxers because there are no Pleiadians. So this is, another one of those little bumps in the road for those that want to take issue with it or think it's all, a bit of a confusing hodgepodge. And what we were missing in these contact reports was this, what I call hokey thing of, we're the space brothers and we bring you love and light. And they never spoke that way. And interestingly enough, in reading of the several thousand pages I've read of the Meier,
let me stop you and ask you, how, if they didn't speak that way, how did they speak?
They spoke logically and precisely. It wasn't without warmth. They greeted each other with friendliness. For the longest time, there wasn't much of a sense of humor present in it. Billy exhibited his own humor, and they didn't quite get it for the longest time, quite literally. But they spoke directly, and what I was going to say is the only time I ever saw in print any of these ETs use the two words "I believe." There was one occasion I can remember when the man that is supposedly a leader of their race, who's called Ptah, same name as the ancient Egyptian god, he said to Billy, "I believe the person you're thinking of is named such and such." Other than that, they only spoke of what they knew and what they didn't know.
All right, let's get to the why of it. Why Billy Meier, for example, instead of the head of Switzerland or the head of the United States, president, or Russia or whatever?
Sure.
Why not a world leader? Why
this man?
Why a Swiss guy living a rural lifestyle? Why him?
Well, there's actually a host of reasons, but let me say that in addition to Billy, there were 5 other people who were selected as potentially being able to do this quote-unquote mission. They either declined or died or killed in car accidents or what have you. There were a total of 6 people. Meier was one and probably the main candidate. And the reason, and I'm just going to tell it, again, this is going to be speculative, so for anybody who wants to scratch their head around this point. These people have conveyed in the material that reincarnation is a fact of life. I like to say there's a bumper sticker that would say, reincarnation, don't worry about dying, you'll live through it. So they kind of hold this philosophy, we live millions of times, we have no recall for the most part of any of these experiences, and what we do is come back time and time and time again to evolve, to learn new lessons. And they claim to have the ability to track that essential part that reincarnates, that they call the human spirit. Not the soul, but the human spirit.
They call it the human spirit.
The human spirit. In other words, the spirit, or spirit form, they use that term, the spirit form or the human spirit. That's the individually unique essence of every human living every and anywhere on Earth or anywhere in this universe.
Same thing a priest would say.
Could be, except they might call it the soul, but they claim that the soul is a different thing. It's located in the solar plexus. They say this is akin to the psyche, and there may be very distinct differences in their cosmology between the soul and the spirit. The soul does not survive the dying process, but the spirit does. This is, again, according to them. So this isn't to pass on, create a new belief system here. This is information. It's speculative.